I cannot tell you. A lot of shit I had to read for this episode about structural engineering, fireproofing, steel gird that I don't understand.
You're an architect now.
I'm an architect of my own destruction. Okay? Let me be real with you here. Okay?
You know about as much as the mobsters did, though, to be clear.
That's it exactly.
That's the point.
That's it exactly. Now, you're a married woman, so this is not fun.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
We support the sanctity of marriage at this podcast. I have a fun question, I think, for like a first date icebreaker.
Oh, okay. I love giving you love advice.
I didn't ask for any, but nevertheless, here's the icebreaker.
You need it.
And we'll cut this out. Here's the icebreaker question.
Okay.
Where were you on 9/11?
Wow. That's not what I was expecting, but it is a romantic question.
It's a curveball.
Yeah.
And then you get to know the person.
I do think about this a lot, actually, because I feel as though, every generation has one event or perhaps two that just completely change their brain chemistry. And I think for us, millennials,
yes,
elder millennials,
possibly, but I'm not telling.
It was 9/11. So I remember it super clearly in 8th grade, walking up the stairs, hearing about...
You were in San Francisco?
In San Francisco, yes. But my mom is from Long Island and a lot of her family lives in New York. And being sent home for the day and just seeing my mom cry and thinking as a young child, like, that everyone in New York was harmed and not really understanding the geography, but completely terrifying. What about you? Wow, what a date question.
And then like the waiter comes by, can I tempt you with some dessert?
Please pass the crab rangoon.
Hey, how good are crab rangoons?
They're really good.
It's just fried cream cheese.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what, that's not crab.
That ain't crab. Whatever it's in there, it ain't crab. Okay?
Yes.
So I had a weird 9/11.
Weird.
It was weird because
I think it was weird for
other people had weirder
country.
ones, admittedly. Yes. But what I'm saying is because I was from Long Island.
Right.
And I had moved away from Long Island the year before with my family.
To Maine.
And it was the first week of high school for me. I remember this always. First week of high school was 9/11. First week of college was Hurricane Katrina. First semester of senior year of college was the financial crash.
Oh, I was going to say that was right when I graduated.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, because
how do we...
I graduated early. But anyways, the point is that fall of looking for a job.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Basically, we dealt with a lot of shit too.
Gen
Z has
they can learn a thing or two from us,
Yeah.
It was just weird, right? And so, we were not getting much guidance from... Bush went missing. Cheney went missing. Bush finished reading the book about the pet goat.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the video of him in a classroom reading to children where it's whispered into his ear that 9/11 has happened.
Right.
Not called that yet, but
Yeah.
Plain Twin Towers. It really holds up, that video.
However, there was another leader that day that did become a saint as a result of this, which was Rudy Giuliani. And I think that his career, it's forgotten, was basically moribund at that point. It was dead. He was on the way out of office. The day 9/11 happened was the primary for the mayoral race to succeed him. And he was going out with his tail kind of between his legs. This revitalized his career, right?
Yeah, even as an 8th grader, I remember after that, just everyone thinking so positively of the mayor of New York.
And in large part, it was because there was a void of leadership in the country. He was covered in the dust. He had been in Lower Manhattan when the buildings collapsed, fleeing like everyone else. Now, as we're going to find out, it was for an interesting reason he was down there at all. and not a particularly good one. But the fact that Giuliani, now this is a podcast about the mob. Giuliani, prior to terrorism, the Middle East, he became very associated with that. Prior to that, he'd been Mr. Crime Buster, right? First as a mob prosecutor, and then catapulting himself to the mayoralty by saying, I'm going to tackle crime in New York, right? And crime rates went down, incidentally, before he was mayor, and continued to go down while he was mayor, and he got a lot of the credit for that.
Yeah, I remember, he cleaned up New York.
Right.
Whatever that meant.
What's so interesting is in preparing for today's episode, this doesn't seem like a typical outfit episode, in part because the main character of it is really not a person at all. It's the World Trade Center. And specifically, and Giuliani was the first hint towards this for me, the idea of the Mafia of New York being involved with the World Trade Center from its conception, through its construction, its existence, its destruction, and then the recovery effort afterwards.
It's not a typical outfit episode in that, it's about
one guy.
Right. But in many ways, it's sort of the perfect outfit episode because it shows their involvement in something that has been so foundational to sort of the culture of our country since it happened, the different wars we get involved in, how patriotism is viewed.
It's such a good point. And because I think, not being a psychic or a clairvoyant, I obviously can't say this with certainty, I genuinely don't think there's a timeline in which 9/11 doesn't happen that Donald Trump becomes president.
100%.
Can't see it happening, right?
Yeah.
And his administration, his candidacy, it's based very much around, first off, the scapegoating of foreigners that but obviously reached a fever pitch under Bush. But we also have, 9/11 has come up a lot in what Trump says about things. And he has had a kind of 9/11 administration where Giuliani was his lawyer, right? Giuliani ran for president, of course, and was kind of a proto-Trump in a few ways, right, in his political career. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary who's in charge of the tariffs, he was president of Cantor Fitzgerald. The financial firm wiped out on 9/11. His own brother was killed in it. He only avoided being killed by having to drop his kid off at school. Obviously, his feelings about New York, which come up a lot, and his feelings about cities in general being criminal and dangerous.
And also this idea of America as a sort of victim, that we're hated for our freedom.
Well, and this is really what we want to get into today. A lot of attention has been paid, rightly, to the fact that 9/11 was a kind of blowback, right? You've heard this term. It's our policies overseas in the Middle East. Unfortunately, there's this backlash to it too, right? Which in the form of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, right? I think going over this, there's also a kind of domestic backlash to the corruption and cronyism and greed that drove not just Mafia involvement in the World Trade Center, but to be honest, the design and construction of the World Trade Center, period, which I came to believe over the course of researching this was a fucking disaster from the beginning.
And that way, it's really the ultimate American story.
Unfortunately. To start to understand how the World Trade Center came together and in the environment in which it was constructed, we have to go back a little, even before it was built. And let's go back to 1950 and a somewhat unlikely New Yorker, Mr. Woody Guthrie.
Oh, him popping up in this episode.
No one saw Woody Guthrie coming up in the 9/11 episode,
no,
I'm sure.
But
right?
I'm sure there's a connection.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he was involved with 9/11 that I'm aware of. Seemed like a pretty peace-loving guy. But
watch Loose Change. It's all in there.
Loose Change blows the lid off of Woody. You're not going to believe what we find about Woody Guthrie. Is it incredible? It really is. We're probably going to be doing some more of that.
Do not ever do that again.
Do not.
No.
Excuse me.
God. The terror.
Listen, unfortunately, we're probably going to return to that because Woody Guthrie moves in to a new apartment in 1950. Now, what is the link, you ask? You didn't ask, but I'm asking for you. Here's
You don't want me to answer.
You don't want to know.
Tell me the link.
Here's the link. It's a new apartment complex called Beach Haven in Gravesend, Brooklyn, towards Coney Island, outer boroughs. Beach Haven is one of many post-war housing developments being financed by the Federal Housing Authority, which is to say, all these veterans returned from World War II. They're starting families. The baby boom is on.
Mhm.
They need affordable housing to live the middle-class dream and all that. Now, my grandfather actually was one of those. He was not at Beach Haven. He was, however, a returning GI, combat veteran of World War II, tank gunner, who returned. His brother had been killed in the war. He returned home. He married. He moved into what was called a Levitt house.
Which were sort of these, not pre-made, but like sort of, every house looks exactly the same.
Prefabricated in part.
Oh, they were prefab.
And affordable and financed with, federal loans.
In a Sears catalog.
Right. And I remember all the streets were named for trees. And it was just like, now, there were issues with both Beach Haven and Levittown, as Woody Guthrie soon discovered.
Okay.
And he writes a song about it. And the song is named for the landlord, the guy who built Beach Haven. And here are some of the lyrics, if you may indulge me. I don't have much of a voice. Beach Haven looks like heaven, where no black ones come to roam. No, 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 old man Trump. Old Beach Haven ain't my home.
It always goes back to a shitty landlord. You know?
This is like the final boss level of shitty landlords.
Yes.
Because, of course, Woody Guthrie's landlord that he's just decrying in these songs is Fred Trump, father of Donald, the creator of the Trump real estate kingdom.
The originator of the daddy issues that are now destroying our country.
I'm not even sure he was the originator. His father, his father literally ran a brothel in the Yukon.
Okay, yes. We can't even trace the origin.
This is
just shitty men straight down the line.
I mean, Fred Trump's father was a German possible Klansman. That's not even a joke, okay? This is what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Fred Trump always saw an opportunity to get money from the federal government to build his shit and keep as much of it for himself as he possibly could. And that's exactly what he did with Beach Haven. So the Senate even calls him a liar ultimately over this, even though he's not charged with anything, right? That they claim that he basically lied to Congress over this, right? So this is all pretty well known. It came out a lot again after Trump was elected. These investigations, this bilking, the segregation, all this. What was not so delved into, and which I found digging through some great books on the subject, though, is who Fred Trump's partner was in the Beach Haven housing development. And that is...
I have an idea.
You have a guess?
The mob.
It was the mob, correct. Yeah. I mean, when in doubt on this show,
That wasn't very difficult.
Yeah. Now, it was represented by a mobbed-up brick contractor, right, who... in exchange for a small investment, got to share in the millions of federal dollars coming in. Fred Trump.
I'm
going to call him Drumpf now.
What's next? Kofifi?
Here's the Kofifi you ordered. Let's just do all 2018.
Drumpf.
Yeah.
Cheeto?
The Cheeto and Chief? I think you mean.
We're actually boomers. We just look really good.
For me, I don't know. Look, the point is, Drumpf, as I choose to call him, had partnered with the mob, partnered with this mobbed-up brick contractor to front for the mob. And here's the way it worked in New York at that time. And we're going to see this over and over again in this story. You bring on the mob or a mob emissary as partners, and in exchange, they don't fuck with you on the building, right? They will sell you the resources you need, the concrete, the bricks, the whatever, and supply it to you at inflated prices, and they're going to pocket the difference, right? They're not going to cause problems with their corrupted unions for you using, as this case is called in Michael D'Antonio's book about it, fresh off the boat labor that you can exploit, pay badly, etc. They're not going to fuck with that. And they're going to provide you political cover, which Fred Trump didn't entirely need. He was already hooked in with the Brooklyn Democratic machine, but the mob is hooked in with that too. So you're good, right?
And, I joked it was easy to guess that the mob was his partner because this is a mob show. But I mean, I think in terms of, this time period and even earlier in New York and growth and building, is it safe to say that the mob was really involved in most of that?
Well, this is it, right? This is the mob infiltration. I found op-eds and stuff decrying mob influence in construction going back to the 30s.
Yeah, it seems like it's just, I don't even know how to unspool it, if that makes sense.
And this is what I mean about it being like this. A mafia is not just the crime family. It's the builders like Fred Trump who have their foot, who are legitimate, supposedly, right?
That's legitimate.
I mean, Fred Trump is an upstanding citizen, blah, blah, blah. He's got the Brooklyn Democratic machine. They're the elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the mafia. It's just this iron triangle, right? Now, you run down the brick contractor. Bricks were especially mobbed up. You run down his associates. We've got drug traffickers for Lucky Luciano, right? We got the Genovese family. But biggest of all is we have Louis DeBono. Louis DeBono.
Great name.
It's such a perfect name for this show.
It
right?
really is.
Louis DeBono, and this is covered in Wayne Barrett's book about Trump. Wayne Barrett being the hero journalist, who we're going to talk about a lot more. Louis DeBono is not just a contractor, owns a plastering contractor named Mario and DeBono, based on Long Island. He is a Gambino family soldier, a made man. He is a member of the mob, as was his father, right? So Fred Trump's partner on this project worked with DeBono on every other construction job he ever did, right? So this is what we're talking about here, right? The mob is cut in for the deal. They allow the project to continue. And all in all, this, in Michael D'Antonio's words, means that Mafia's involvement made construction in New York City more expensive and more dangerous than anywhere else in America. And this is in the 50s.
Made it more expensive for who?
For everyone, right?
Right.
The guys like Fred Trump have to pay inflated prices. That's passed on to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government is being built, right? Everyone's paying more.
Okay.
And it's
because you would think they would be use them because they get it for cheap, the labor, and they get to pay less.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, like, look, Fred Trump is still saving money in some respects on this, right? And that money is not going into the pocket of the people building it.
No,
right?
He's getting it.
He's getting it, right? So that's how it's set up by the 50s, which we tend to think of as a relatively placid time. Not really. This is
just kind of look the other way.
Yeah.
That's how
you go along to get along. And this is kind of how things work in construction in New York City at that time. But as time goes on, something that's interesting that happens is there becomes a fear in New York that they're losing their edge, especially as you get into the 60s and later the 70s especially. That the city's emptying out. There's what they call white flight, really bad racial discrimination and later rioting occurring in cities across the country. What this leads to is this weird situation where the financial district in New York develops low occupancy. And there's hatched this scheme to increase the occupancy and vitalization of Lower Manhattan through something that recognizes New York's role, importantly, in international trade.
Something that's interesting about financial districts, this is happening right now. This just continues to happen, is just an issue of depopulation and then all of the schemes that are come up with to try to get people back there.
It's true,
Maybe
right?
we need to give up on these districts.
I mean, we had this with COVID, right?
Yep.
Downtown LA is like bizarre.
But you look back in time and there were a lot of different periods in which this was happening.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing.
No, it's not. And in this case, the solution is we're not going to build one skyscraper. We're going to build two, and we're going to make them fucking enormous, right? And this, of course, is the World Trade Center. As it's conceived, it's going to maximize floor space. It's going to revitalize capitalism in the city. It's going to bring the business class back into Lower Manhattan. And the other weird thing is it's going to align nicely with the general aims of two outer borough sons. One of them is Louis DeBono, son of a mafia captain, right?
Trump partner.
And this brings us to the second of those two sons, Donald Trump, who is languishing in the outer boroughs, working for his father's real estate empire and dreams of getting to Manhattan, right?
Yeah, it's just like the shittiest Succession episode.
It would be the lowest rated Succession episode on IMDb.
I mean, I hate to do that to my boy Kendall Roy and compare him.
I mean, he makes, put him up against Don Jr.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Kendall looks like fucking Albert Einstein, okay?
I love Kendall. I can fix him.
Good luck, okay? But let's fix this first.
Okay. I don't think we can fix this.
Well, probably not. But let's fix what happened exactly once the World Trade Center was going to be built, okay? Because there's an announcement, 1968. Louis DeBono, mob soldier, I mentioned, awarded a contract at the Twin Towers for spraying asbestos and cement on structural steel, worth $1.725 million in 1968 money.
Wow.
Okay, it's an enormous amount of money. This raises an important question, which is, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
A mafia captain? Not captain. His father was the captain. Mafia soldier.
We get it.
With the Gambino family, the Yankees, the Coke, classic Coke of mafia families, right? Probably the most lucrative one of the 5 families of New York. Has one of their guys in charge of fireproofing. I cannot tell you a lot of shit I had to read for this episode about structural engineering, fireproofing, steel gird that I don't understand.
You're an architect now.
I'm an architect of my own destruction. Okay, let me be real with you here. Okay?
You know about as much as the mobsters did, though, to be clear.
That's it exactly.
That's the point.
That's it exactly. I don't know shit about all that. I don't know shit about jet fuel, melting points, all that.
But the good thing is you're not constructing the Twin Towers.
I'm not building it, though. And here's what I do know. A mafia-controlled contractor being tasked with anything of importance in the first building made of steel to collapse is of note.
Oh, yeah.
It's disturbing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really underlined this point before, but, they're not particularly good at doing this construction. They're cutting corners.
This is such an important point that the mafia, with mafia construction infiltration and their corrupt practices, here's the underlying iron law. We make more money the worse job we do. And I'm going to break down exactly what I mean when I say that.
Sounds like corporate America.
Well, this is the central thesis of this, that everyone just mimics these guys after a certain point, right? Now, the fireproofing, let me explain a little bit about what we mean by the fireproofing and how the World Trade Center is designed.
Okay.
The World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, I should say, because it's more than that in the complex. It has a core of steel, essentially, rising up, and then the floors.
And those are the beams that people reference.
These are the famous beams that everyone talks about. It has this steel core rising up the length of the buildings, all 100+ stories, right, on both towers. Each floor has these struts, steel struts that go outward from it, emanate, and on that you have the concrete floors and ceilings, right? They did this in such a way that there are no columns in the middle of the office spaces, right? We have that core, and then we have the floor, and then no columns.
Doesn't sound, I'm not a structural engineer, but.
Doesn't sound strong to you?
No, it doesn't.
I'll let others be the judge of that.
Seems like columns do have a function.
Well, here's what we do know. Doing it in this way allows for as much prime office space to be rented as you possibly can.
Yeah.
No one likes a column in the middle of their office.
Yeah.
All that shit, right? Okay, so you do that, right? Now, in order to make sure that any high-rise fire doesn't weaken the steel beams such that there's, say, a collapse, what you will do is spray or apply fireproofing to the steel girders. In the event of a fire that way, the fireproofing around it
protects the beam.
Exactly. It's not going to be weakened, right? Now, this is very important. There are standards in place and were standards in place at that time in New York City for many years for for instance, fireproofing it to a standard that it could withstand a fire for 4 hours, say. All right?
Okay.
Now, that's the standard that they're going to start with in constructing the World Trade Center. And then what happens as the project goes along is they go from what they call 1A to 1B. And it's done for what they later call, in a later report, economic reasons. And that means dropping it. Now we don't have to have it 4 hours. It can be 3 or 2 hours.
How can they legally do that?
Important point. It is technically a project of the Port Authority.
Right.
And the Port Authority, which was formed to, again, stimulate trade and ideally root out corruption on the waterfront in New York and New Jersey, the idea is that they say, actually, we don't need to apply. We're kind of doing a federal thing here. We don't need to adhere to New York City safety standards. That's their case, right? There is a claim that Louis DeBono just won the bid fair and square.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? The fact that he's a Mafia member, I guess, doesn't have anything to do with it. But I'll tell you, looking through that announcement, I found another firm that got the contract the same day that he did was later accused of paying kickbacks in Newark, New Jersey to the mayor there to secure contracts.
Wow, of course. I think I know what a kickback is, which is basically just paying someone to pick you for when you put in a bid for a project. Is that correct?
So that's right. And we're going to find later Louis DeBono and some of the people he dealt with get accused of kickback. And in the Port Authority, mind you, get accused of accepting kickbacks in exchange for giving out contracts. Let me give the example of the firm that was doing business in Newark. They get a contract from the city of Newark. How did they get it? They paid the mayor and his bagmen a percentage of that, right? They said, you give us the contract, we give you the dough. It has nothing to do with how competent, how qualified they are to do it, how much it's going to cost the taxpayer. It's just bribing the guy.
And this goes on all the time in many different industries.
We're going to, sanitation is the other big one like this, right?
Yeah.
But believe me, it goes deeper than that, right?
Now, where is Trump, not Fred, his son, Donald?
Trump this is a little later after the construction of the World Trade Center, but I'm going to bring him up as an example of what was going on in the building trades at that time and also give us some insight, right? Now, Donald Trump, it wasn't his first achievement in Manhattan, but his greatest achievement in Manhattan was demolishing the Bonwit-Teller building next to Tiffany's in Manhattan and building in his place Trump Tower.
Right. Now, where he's languishing like Kendall Roy.
Though he's gone tropical now. He's really more a Florida man than anything.
Oh boy.
Jimmy Buffett head. But Trump Tower is constructed a little later. And I think it's a perfect textbook case of what probably happened with the World Trade Center.
Okay.
And there's been shockingly little analysis, in my opinion, of this. And I'll talk about why I think that is. Which is, in order to build anything in Manhattan at that time, especially using concrete, you had to buy from what they call the Concrete Club.
Which I love that name.
Yeah.
It's a great bar name.
I would love to be asked to be in the Concrete Club.
Yeah.
It sounds so cool.
It does sound so cool, but I'm sure it's so evil.
Well, it's horrible, actually, which is, here's what the Concrete Club is. The Mafia families in New York designate, let's say, 8 different contractors supplying ready-mix concrete. That's concrete ready to pour out of the back of a truck.
Now, it may have dead bodies mixed in there.
I mean, they mix their work with their pleasure. Sure,
It's not the cleanest of concrete, but it'll do.
You're going to have some human parts in it. I don't know what to tell you, okay?
You're going to find a foot.
You're going to find a foot. You haven't found a foot in your concrete before? So they control concrete. They control the supply of concrete. If you control the supply of concrete and say to every builder in the city, including Donald Trump, you have to buy from one of these 8 guys, you can set the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do, the mob, is they would say, we get 2% of the total cost of the project, right?
That's a kickback, kind of.
Exactly. That is exactly right. And that's our tax on it, right?
What if someone says, I don't want to use your foot concrete?
Yeah, good luck on anything built. right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Guys did do that, right? And it's like, okay, well, your building's not being built. And that's not the only thing we can do. We can cut off the supply of concrete.
Yeah, they control all the building contractors.
They control that, right? Good luck getting any workers there. Because here's the other thing. Infiltrating unions, now you can say they're not working at that site, right? This is what I mean, right? Multiple members of the concrete club supplied the concrete at the World Trade Center, okay? In addition to Louis DeBono having the fireproofing contract.
Wow,
right?
So they're doing the concrete, they're doing the...
they're doing the fireproofing. Right? They're in charge of storing the steel. And something that is discovered in the course of construction is that the steel is rusting in places due to improper storage. That's going to be important.
Is there anything on the building that they didn't fuck up?
I mean, this is an open question, all right? I really should not be the one asking this, okay? I don't feel qualified, frankly, all right? And so Donald Trump builds his Trump Tower. It's like a litmus test to me of how you get this shit built, right? He builds it entirely out of concrete, in fact, which is very rare for that time. He doesn't use steel at all because it benefits the mob even more. It's so obvious that
they're all mobsters. That's what I'm saying is how are the Trumps not one of them? Well, I mean, they're benefiting from it.
And in fact, Donald Trump shares a lawyer with the Genovese family boss, who's really the kingpin of the concrete club. That lawyer is Roy Cohn, who is the other great mentor of Donald Trump, besides Fred Trump, and who teaches him everything.
Yeah, this is what the movie The Apprentice is about.
It is.
Featuring Kendall Roy, Jeremy Strong, my favorite.
And the wonderful Sebastian Stan, as he's fantastic. It's a great movie.
But just to put a point on Roy Cohn being one of the most evil,
people to ever live.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you read about him and people are saying it's hard to understate how his evil actions had ramifications for decades and decades and still are after his death. Which is, I don't like saying because that's giving an evil person everything they want. Your evil was so influential.
Well, let me put it this way. In the course of doing this episode, I watched a lot of footage of Roy Cohn. Donald Trump even sounds like him when he talks. Wow. So again, to recap with the World Trade Center, we have mobbed up contractors doing the fireproofing, the concrete, the steel, the construction. I don't know what's left.
And where does the asbestos come in? Because it's a little bit confusing to me that's being used this late.
Hugely important point. As I said, fireproofing involves spraying the fireproofing material on the steel girders to protect them. Mm-hmm. At first, Louis DeBono's firm is doing an asbestos-based fireproofing, right? This, incidentally, is later found in court through multiple lawsuits to have killed some of the construction workers on that site working on their spraying it and applying it. And their wives, incidentally, right? That was at least one of the cases I saw. They're seeing this asbestos billowing down onto the street. And someone finally says, I think this is a bad idea, right? They replaced the asbestos for much of, I believe, all of the South Tower and the 40th floor and up on the North Tower. They keep the asbestos on the rest of the North Tower. That asbestos is going to be a time bomb for later. We are going to come back to that asbestos. But more important is the fact that Louis DeBono, as I said, mob contractor, not there to do a good job, right?
No.
We are going to find evidence later that he misapplied the fireproofing, that the rusting on the steel meant that could not be applied properly, it wouldn't stick to it, and that the replacement for the asbestos was especially prone to doing this. One of the winters where they're doing this, they have a lot of rain, a lot of snow. It seems to wipe off a lot of the fireproofing.
Oh my God.
Right? But
they're just trying to get it done as quickly and cheaply as possible.
They are. Now, interestingly, all this stuff about the concrete club and how it works in New York at that time, it really comes out in vivid detail in a trial in 1987 called the Commission Trial. The Commission Trial puts on the top leadership of the 5 families of New York on trial. Smash success. Incredibly audacious. Hundreds and hundreds of years of prison sentences The bosses of the 5 families
Yep.
all die in prison. It's amazing.
And this was a major turning point, right, for the mob, but it's never been the same.
Undoubtedly, and it is the highest point in the career of the prosecutor who led it, Rudy Giuliani. So let's skip ahead now a little bit.
Okay. We're bopping around a lot.
We are bopping around a lot, but
I have ADHD and I love to bop.
You love to bop. That's our tagline for this episode.
Love to bop. And then I also want a hat that says Concrete Club.
Yeah.
Just some ideas.
I have some merch ideas too.
Yeah.
I had an idea. This is the only merch idea I've had. Not a podcast guy on a shirt.
I think that exists.
I gotta get Roy Cohn to sue whoever came up with that. We're gonna destroy you in court. You're gonna be destroyed. Do you understand that? Yeah.
You really, the career for SNL is coming.
Lauren,
they're looking for some new talent.
You just fired everyone like you like doing every year for some reason.
Yeah, I'm very bad at impressions.
Let's move across town from Studio 8H of Rockefeller Center.
Okay, why does your brain have that?
To the World Trade Center in 1990.
Okay.
Now we can get back to Louis DeBono, mobbed up contractor, and he's in trouble, okay? Louis needs help. He probably needed therapy. He probably needed to see...
There's a show about that.
I haven't seen it.
No.
Louis DeBono, the contractor who misapplied the fireproofing at the World Trade Center, he's having some drug and alcohol problems. Whomst amongst us.
Yeah, whomst amongst us. I mean...
It's the 80s.
Not only is that it's the 80s,
mm-hmm.
It's the mob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's New York, baby.
I think he also has a food issue because he weighs, I'm serious, he weighs 350 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a big fella. And he's having issues with the new boss of the Gambino family, of which he is a member. The new boss of the Gambino family is, of course, John Gotti, the Teflon Don, one of the most famous mafia dons of all time. No one more responsible for the destruction of the mafia than John Gotti. But before that happened,
flew too close to the sun.
On wings made of
asbestos.
Yes. Fucking yes.
I am actually smart.
We're on fire.
That was really hard.
John Gotti killed his predecessor to take control. And now that he's in control, he is just behaving utterly ruthlessly. His underboss, his second in command, Sammy Gravano, he is going to turn on him in a couple years, testify against him in court, send him to prison for life. But before that happens, Sammy Gravano is stealing everything he can with 2 fists in the construction rackets. He is obsessed with construction, making tons and tons and tons of money off it. He has like 15 companies at this point. And what he keeps doing basically is getting guys killed and taking over their rackets, right? And
classic.
The FBI later knows this because they have a bug in the top apartment above his headquarters in Little Italy. And here they hear John Gotti meeting first with DeBono, right? And DeBono says, I'm in really good shape. I'm paying all my bills. And Gotti says back, I don't want another thing like this. No, we don't need this fucking shit. I don't need it. John, I'm working very hard. I'm in the office every day. I'm on the ball.
Wow.
Now, they don't realize after the fact, he's begging for his life, okay? Because there's this dispute over taxes in his contracting firm where Sammy Gravano is very angry at him, but it's all a pretext to kill him and take over his business, right? Later, in October 1990, DeBono goes to one place where the Gambino family hitmen know that they'll be able to find him, his job site, the World Trade Center.
I was wondering when it came back.
Oh, yes. DeBono pulls his Cadillac into the North Tower parking garage of the World Trade Center. He's getting out of the car. Gambino family hitman walks up to him, bang, 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 shoots him 3 times in the head. They have a van nearby. They're going to drag him into the van to disappear the body like they have done before, except he's so heavy they can't move him. So they cram him back in the car and leave.
Is this well known that this happened?
This is not well known that this happened.
At
it
the
is
World Trade Center.
And not just that.
That's insane.
He's murdered in the North Tower parking garage of the World Trade Center. He is not found. The body of Louis DeBono is not found. And I've seen estimates saying it was short as 12 hours. I've seen estimates as long as 3 days before a parking attendant found the corpse.
This place has cursed energy from the jump.
It's the fucking worst.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out how bad and cursed it is 3 years later when the first World Trade Center attack happens with a Ryder truck containing a massive bomb parked where?
No.
The same exact garage of the World Trade Center.
That garage is so freaky.
So doesn't bode well for the security of this place. They didn't notice a 350-pound mob corpse in it for days at a time. They certainly don't notice the truck bomb abandoned in it, right? Before it goes off, kills 6 people, injures 1,000.
Wow.
Really amazing stuff. It's going to be one of the first really, really bad warning signs.
So even the garage is like an issue.
The garage is an issue. Clearly, security is an issue. Now,
again, there's not an issue this building doesn't have.
There's not. In 1975, another forgotten thing, okay?
Okay.
There had been a fire at the World Trade Center, which was fortunately at night, so there weren't that many people in it. Multiple firefighters were injured fighting it. It did sweep across multiple floors, and it raised the point that in the press at that time, the World Trade Center doesn't have a sprinkler system.
I love that they're given like so many opportunities to address the issues.
The water pressure. I mean, this is 1993. I was watching the news coverage of the bombing at that time. What I was astounded by was the people coming out of that building were fucking furious. One of the guys says, "This is a fucking death trap, this building," right? Why? If we could see a photo of the stairwell of the World Trade Center. Now, the fortunate thing about the 1993 bombing is that more people were not killed miraculously because each tower has 3 staircases like this. Tens of thousands of people have to come down these staircases to evacuate the building. If you're older, disabled, in a wheelchair, heavy set, whatever, it's very hard to do that.
Let's be clear. This looks like the stairway of like your shitty ex-boyfriend's like Brooklyn, like tenement vibes apartment.
I believe
this is not.
The staircases are 44 inches wide for those listening. They look barely big enough for 2 people abreast to walk up and down them, much less a firefighter with 100 pounds of gear on it, much less anyone carrying someone, et cetera, et cetera.
It's insane.
So imagine tens of thousands of people having to evacuate. You can't use the elevators. It's over 100 stories, and there's smoke pouring up it the whole time. Thick, acrid smoke. It's a miracle not more people died of smoke inhalation there, right? So this speaks to the fact that it's designed, I mean, the smoke is literally sucked up the entire building when this bomb goes off. The bomb goes off in the basement. It's meant to topple over the North Tower into the South Tower. That's the aim.
And who was orchestrating this attack?
This was a ring of Islamic extremists led by a guy, doesn't really even matter. Like, it just, forerunners of Al-Qaeda, okay?
It's just they did a trial run is the point I'm making.
It's exactly right. And in fact, when the main ringleader, Ramzi Youssef, is brought back to the U.S. for trial, he's taken on a helicopter past Manhattan. One of the federal agents says to him, "Look at that. They're still standing," because they passed in the World Trade Center. And he says, "We're going to get them. They're not for long. We'll get them again, you know?" But leave that in the back of your mind. Rudy Giuliani, of course, in fact, the race for him to become mayor is on. And he wins, replaces David Dinkins as mayor of New York, is not really focused on the World Trade Center, barely mentions it, which is interesting. He's talking all about crime, quality of life issues. He's not focused on that.
When was that big commission lawsuit?
Commission trial was 87.
Trial.
So
okay, so he's riding high.
Right. He ran and lost narrowly in 89. Now he's running again. He's going to win this time, right? Interestingly, something else that he does not pay attention to is what's covered in an incredible Newsday report from this time, my newspaper I grew up with. And I'll just read quickly. The rush to repair the crippled World Trade Center has benefited at least 4 firms that have affiliations with organized crime figures or relatives of imprisoned Godfather John Gotti. So the
they almost like it. They're like, well, more work for us.
That's right.
To fix this problem.
Exactly right. They emergency repairs are being done by mobbed up firms. The job of towing the cars from the parking garage is by a Gotti nephew, I think, or Gotti son-in-law, excuse me. Gotti nephew's working on the job site. And, the Port Authority says we had to hire these guys. There was no other possible. Port Authority is being investigated for corruption because Louis DeBono being murdered in the basement exposes, wait a minute, what the fuck is this guy doing working on the World Trade Center, right?
Yeah, why is he even here? We don't know him.
In 1989, Louis DeBono gets a $100,000 contract to fix the fucked up fireproofing he fucked up in the first place.
Oh my God.
There's no competition on the bid. And the Port Authority says, it's just because he installed it in the first place, so he knows how to do it, which makes no fucking sense
it's like,
at all.
He fucked it up. Surely he can fix it.
Right? If security wasn't bad enough, in 1998, a mob associate aligned with a New Jersey crew robs the Bank of America armored car at the World Trade Center of $1.7 or so million.
They're all over this building.
They're fucking, the line in Sopranos, stop looting the job site. It's just, they're looting the job site.
Yes, over and over again.
Over and over again, right? And he's able to get away from the World Trade Center. You'd think the security would be so tight at this point that you could not escape from it with $1.8 million. Mm-hmm. He does. He's arrested at his mother's fucking house. Oh. So all this is to say, we're leading up to a grim future here, which is we know 9/11 is coming, right? But this is going to be subject to a fascinating report after 9/11 by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's a part of the Commerce Department, which did a report looking into the structural engineering faults of the towers and their collapses, right? And what they find is first off, they find that the safety standards were lowered from 1A to 1B, like I mentioned earlier, for economic reasons. Their words, not mine, right?
You shouldn't be allowed to do that in a building that big with that many people in it.
Maybe there's no way that could have possibly been avoided if a jetliner full of fuel crashes into it, right? But we don't know because they never fucking tested it, right? And Louis DeBono was the fucking goof in charge of applying this shit, right? I'm amazed that the head of the World Trade Department for the Port Authority says later, DeBono, quote, had a reputation as the best in the city. He said this after 9/11 to the New York Times.
Just straight up lying.
How could this guy's a mob soldier, right? This is such fucking horseshit, right? I mean, give me a fucking break here, right?
The best in the city used asbestos for more than half of the project and then was like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that.
And it gets worse, right? One of the companies that worked with DeBono hired a consultant during the midst of this lawsuit to look over the fireproofing, right? So this guy, again, this is a New York Times report, says, years of inspection had revealed that whole sections of the original fireproofing had fallen away and other sections had deteriorated. The guy says that DeBono's firm had, quote, improperly sprayed the fireproofing onto rusted steel, which caused it to slough off. The fireproofing had to be scrutinized as a potential contributor to the failures of the building. Okay. Again, we don't know. We're not structural engineers. As much as I lie.
You don't need to be a structural engineer to figure out what's happening here.
This is fucking cheaping out on the job, right? And there are a lot of failures on 9/11. We mentioned Giuliani. The firefighter radios didn't work. There was no strategy for fighting the fires. It's just a whole fucking mess that we can't even get into. Here's what I can tell you. Every minute the building stood was another minute somebody could get out. There was a lot of bad information going to the people to shelter in place, et cetera, et cetera. But there were evacuation orders that were not heeded. But part of the assumption underlying the fire department's mistakes that day was that the buildings would stand either longer or at least long enough to do more, right?
Yeah, the 4 hours, remember.
Exactly. Like maybe there'd be a partial, etc. They also didn't think they could rescue people above the fire, which is interesting. Probably correctly, incidentally. For all these challenging reasons we've talked about. But what's fascinating is because they had this assumption that the buildings would stand, 343 firefighters died. Probably they didn't need to, right?
Wow.
And I mean, there's so many errors happening, but I cannot help but feel, and it's an open question, well, I don't think we'll ever know, if the fireproofing had been more safely applied, more correctly applied, and if there'd been an organized effort to fix the issues in the tower, because after they knew it was a problem in the late 80s, early 90s, they still didn't methodically fix it. Only 14% of the towers had corrected fireproofing installed by DeBono and co., right? Would the towers have stood longer? And would that have led to some people surviving who otherwise didn't? We'll never know.
Well, let's get back to Trump and Giuliani and what they're doing at this time.
So, in 2007, Giuliani has been lying his ass off about what happened on 9/11. He's Mr. 9/11. He's going to run for president in 2008 over this, right?
Right.
And he neglects to mention in any of this, as he's bragging about being the seer on terrorism and all this, that he was such a terrorism expert that he located his emergency command center where in any crisis the mayor is going to go to organize the response at the World Trade Center. The one place in New York that they knew Al-Qaeda had attacked before. Right?
That wasn't properly fireproofed.
Yeah, and so in fact, this was in the emergency command center was on the 20-something floor of World Trade Center 7, which is a smaller building in the same complex, which also collapsed.
Don't you think it would be in a bunker?
Great question. So glad you asked that. As Wayne Barrett says,
I mean, what if there's, I'm thinking Hurricane Sandy. I just don't think being in a...
Exactly. As Wayne Barrett said, it was the only bunker built in the sky ever. Great line.
That's hilarious.
And the reason was Rudy Giuliani said he wanted it to be within walking distance of City Hall because he's lazy, I guess. But
because you're walking during a state of emergency.
That's right. Manhattan being an island, there's water below the surface, so you can't dig under like that easily. So they had to put it in the fucking World Trade Center on the 20-something floor. They had a site in Brooklyn that would have been perfect. It was already secure. Michael Bloomberg moved it to that after he became mayor. But Rudy said no, despite being recommended not to. So the reason Rudy Giuliani was there to be photographed at Ground Zero on 9/11 was he was walking to the command center, which would collapse later that day. Right? Okay.
That's wild.
So he's running for mayor off the basis of that lie, off the basis of...
President.
Yeah. He's running for president off the basis of that lie and, gives the speech at the RNC in 2004, all this shit. While that's happening, something amazing happens at Ground Zero, where fires kept burning till December 2001. It was so hot, right? The firefighters, cops, Port Authority, construction crews, they're all working overtime, nonstop at Ground Zero to try to pull people out and then later recover corpses and just clear the debris, right?
And identify them.
And try to identify them, yes. Yeah. In 2007, 2 firefighters die at Ground Zero of smoke inhalation, 6 years after the attack.
What?
This is one of the most insane parts of this whole story. I'd never heard of this before researching this. Here's the cause. Across the street from the World Trade Center Ground Zero site is Deutsche Bank, which had been badly, badly damaged in the attacks, right? It's falling apart. It's being deconstructed floor by floor. They know it's full of asbestos. It's full of this toxic shit. And it has not been inspected in about a year at that point, even though it's supposed to be inspected every 15 days because the firefighters are afraid, understandably, to go inside it. This means it's left to fester. It's falling apart. And then some construction workers working in the site are smoking. discard it, and it starts a fire. Firefighters go in to try to put out the fire. 2 of them die in there because the subcontractor in charge of demolition, which was called John Galt Company, come back to that in a minute, has blocked stairwells, penned in the loose asbestos with a warren of traps, and they've cut the standpipe. Standpipe is the water pipe that firefighters tap into for their hoses. They've cut it to save money, so they can't put out the fires. 2 of them get trapped in the upper floors and die. 115 more firefighters are injured in the building fighting the fire. A huge amount. Half of them have to take medical leave. And
so horrible.
Can you guess, once again, what John Galt Company is linked to?
That whole area. That whole city.
Need we say it?
Yeah. The second, cutting the pipe to save money.
It, of course, is a mafia front. And as we've talked about before, there's this shell game that goes on where you see this in sanitation, you see this in construction, right? Louis DeBono's firm, for instance, had been officially told they could not work on federal contracts because they were mobbed up. So what does Louis DeBono do? He gets a job with another contractor that's not on that firm. He's going to be the mob representative, and he gets the contract, no problem.
And that's what we call a shell company, correct?
This is exactly right. A shell company is when you make a company just to do that, right? And this is exactly what happened with John Galt Company. John Galt being the libertarian hero in this fucking Ayn Rand book, right?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was...
Right. So I'm reading from a credible New York Times article about this. The company that was in charge, this John Galt thing, really, it's a shell company for, quote, a company that was already removed from one contract at 130 Liberty because of concerns about its integrity. Basically, it shares all the same staff, all the same owners with a firm whose head is a Gambino crime family associate convicted in 1988 of bribing a federal inspector to overlook asbestos removal violations. They're going to claim later, this was just the best firm we could get to do this dangerous work, et cetera, et cetera. And they're such a good firm that a guy working for it later gets sentenced to 7.5 years in jail for embezzling $1.2 million from the job site. Mobsters' relatives get high-paying jobs to work easy shifts at the Ground Zero cleanup.
So even the cleanup they're in.
It's the same way after the 93 bombing, it was a chance to cash in. We got a lot of fucking money to make here, right? New York Post covers this. Steel, within weeks of 9/11, they're diverting steel from the site to sell at junkyards. Now, incredibly, and another thing I didn't know.
So horrible.
The steel is recycled.
So...
from this fucking graveyard, right?
Yeah.
Legally, the Port Authority sells it.
It's the most toxic steel. You can't use that, can you?
I think it's shit. It's garbage. And it's also like the families say, shouldn't we be looking at this to see if we can tell about how the building collapsed? Maybe it's a clue.
Sure.
Can we do that? Not so much caring about that, One of the sites on it is paying protection money to the mob.
And at this point, when they're doing this, people still have no idea how this even happened. It's not like they're doing it now where we have some theories as to what was going on.
I think it's just disgraceful. And this really leads us to the main thing, which is, the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, the corporation developed to clean up the center, redevelop it, right? They close ranks after this Deutsche Bank tragedy, right? Families of the firefighters are not happy that no city officials go to prison for this. They're covered by qualified immunity. They're not going to prison for this.
Imagine that you're a firefighter that doesn't die in 9/11, but then you do on the site 6 years later in a different building.
So that's a great point to lead to what we're going to start to close with here, which is the single most appalling thing of the whole story here of the mafia's involvement. And of more than that, all the corruption involving here, which is, and it blew my fucking mind to read this. More people have died as a result of the cleanup of Ground Zero than died in 9/11 itself. I will repeat that. More people have died from diseases gained as a result of cleaning up the site of Ground Zero than died on 9/11 itself.
Wow.
Cancers. I mean, mesothelioma, all these weird fucking things. One firefighter, I was watching an interview with him. He went to his doctor, showed him the non-FDNY doctor, I should add, external, showed him a list of the chemicals he'd been exposed to. And the doctor told him, you will get cancer.
It's not if, it's when.
It's when, exactly. So what we have now is, with all this shit going on, all this on the cheap, got to clear it up, got to build the new tower, all this shit, hurry it up, no masking, Giuliani certainly didn't model masking, right? We're now in the thousands of people who have died from this, right? And they have to go to Capitol Hill and argue and complain that these Republican fucking senators won't grant them the money,
Yeah, which they rightfully deserve.
Right? These guys who are fucking dying, right?
Now, let's talk about the cleanup effort just really quickly. There was no protocol, I'm assuming, on how they should be protecting themselves. I mean, how did that happen? Was that an inevitable
It's a great question.
Result?
So while these scummy mafia crews, right, are making as much money as they can hand over fist, I think that gives some indication of the level of attention being paid to safety there, right? The EPA lies, essentially, that it's safe, right? Within not that much time. They give them painter's masks, which are useless, sweat through them. The guys don't even bother to wear them. They should be wearing respirators the whole time.
Yeah, and
right?
like hazmat suits.
And it's not happening. There's cross-contamination constantly with their clothes and boots. I mean, they're given contracts to these firms, like the one taking out Deutsche Bank, that just don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? And so there's constant dread that something terrible is going to happen. And Giuliani is treating Ground Zero as the launch of his presidential campaign. It's the most exclusive tour in town. He brings people there to show off what a brave hero he was that day. And I should also add, Donald Trump, the day of 9/11, is on TV saying, and I've never been able to find any corroborating evidence for this, that he sent hundreds of his workers down to 9/11 to help out, right? He also says he saw the first plane hit, which I don't know how believable that is. But all this is to say, as we're going to find out with COVID under these guys, right? There's no fucking concern for this at all. They don't give a shit.
No,
right?
They really don't care how many people die.
So while those guys are, pigs and shit, I'm just happy to be that way.
Colluding.
Right? I mean, I will say, more positively, it is astounding to read about, even if there were massive failures in the fire department leadership, it is amazing to read about what individual people did here. And in particular, what the guys on the cleanup site did, right? Now, what's so depressing is every one of those deaths as a result of the cleanup was avoidable.
Yeah, it was preventable.
That's the real tragedy. But there is also a positive thing in that, well, we can actually do something for them. We can support those guys in their fight to actually get decent health care and funding.
Right.
To battle these cancers and beat them, right?
It's the least we can do.
It truly is. And to me, it's like everyone glamorizes people like to glamorize the mob. This is what the mob really is.
This is the perfect example of what it actually is all about.
It's fucking scum. There's no dignity.
Yeah, I think the perception is that, well, they're only killing other mobsters. But, story after story, there's a human cost. There's a civilian cost to their bullshit.
And we also have a counterexample of how to be a fucking human being. And I should add a man in this case, in large part, is so gendered, right? We have these guys who are really being quite selfless for other people, not grabbing hand over fist, whatever they fucking can, So if there's a silver lining to this, right, it's really given me a renewed focus on helping these guys out in any way we can, just as citizens, as donors, whatever, because unfortunately they have to go and fucking argue. It drives me up the wall.
And these are mostly the family members, correct? I mean, I'm assuming a lot of these people aren't still alive.
Many have died, but many are still alive and they need help. And you know what? If you worked on this site, you're probably going to have health problems. Those are people that, we can all help. So yeah, check it out. We'll include some links on this one for some resources that you can look into and and hopefully do a good job in supporting these guys, And fuck the mob. I fucking hate the mob.
Yeah, I'm pissed.
We're out of the concrete club.